Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sun Theory. You know the deal. We're going to be diving into some surprising and maybe a little unorthodox origins of some beloved Christmas traditions.
Let's just say you might never look at a Christmas tree the same way again.
Exactly.
Ready to get festive, because things are about to get interesting.
Absolutely. Let's kick things off with a question that's been bugging me for years, honestly. Why December 25th? I mean, that's supposed to be Jesus' birthday, right?
Well, here's the first fun theory twist. No one actually knows the exact date of Jesus' birth. And even more surprising, early Christians didn't even celebrate it as a holiday.
Wait, seriously. That's mind-blowing. Christmas is practically a month-long event these days.
It wasn't until 340 AD that Pope Julius II made the call to officially celebrate Christmas on December 25th. And there are a bunch of theories about why that specific date was chosen.
Okay, let's dive into those theories. What's the first one?
One theory that always sparks debate is that early Christians purposely chose December 25th to coincide with and maybe even overshadow some existing Roman pagan festivals that were already happening around that time.
So kind of a if you can't beat 'em, join 'em strategy.
Exactly. You see, the Roman festival of Saturnalia, honoring the god Saturn, went down from December 17th to the 23rd. Think massive feasts, gift-giving, and even this wild tradition where social roles got totally flipped. Slaves were served by their masters.
Sounds a bit like a modern-day office Christmas party gone wild. Minus the togas, of course.
There are definitely some parallels, but Saturnalia had a darker side too. Some historians believe it may have even involved human sacrifice.
Whoa, okay, that took a dark turn. Human sacrifice,
Yeah.
not exactly the warm, fuzzy feeling I associate with Christmas cookies.
Then there's Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, which translates to Birthday of the Unconquered Sun, celebrated on December 25th. It was a relatively new holiday back then, started by Emperor Aurelian, but it was gaining popularity fast. By aligning Christmas with this sun-worshipping celebration, early Christians might have been trying to make their new religion more appealing to the Roman masses.
Interesting. So Christmas could have started as a kind of PR move, trying to fit in with the existing Roman scene.
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? It shows how complex the adoption and evolution of religions can be.
Okay, so we've got pagan appropriation as theory number one.
hmm
What other explanations are out there?
Another theory, known as the calculation theory, suggests that December 25th was figured out by working backwards from the date of Jesus' crucifixion. Back then, it was widely believed that he died on March 25th. The idea was that Jesus' conception and death should fall on the same date, just 9 months apart.
Hmm. I have to say, the pagan connection is way more exciting than calendar math.
Fair enough. It definitely captures the imagination. And there are even more theories out there. Some scholars think Christmas's origins could be tied to 4th century pilgrimages to Bethlehem, which happened to coincide with the winter solstice. The timing of these pilgrimages might have played a role in shaping the holiday's early development.
So the exact reason for December 25th is still a mystery. But it definitely wasn't a random choice. Whether for theological, political, or even tourism reasons, someone made a deliberate decision.
Exactly. And this theme of historical layering of traditions being built upon and reshaped continues as we look at some of the most iconic Christmas traditions.
Okay, hit me with it. What's the first tradition we're unpacking?
Let's talk Christmas trees, that evergreen symbol of holiday cheer. But before they were adorned with twinkling lights and ornaments, these trees had deep roots in pagan celebration.
Wait a minute, are you saying my perfectly decorated artificial tree is secretly a pagan holdover?
Well, maybe not your specific tree, but the tradition itself goes way back. During Saturnalia, Romans decked their homes with evergreen branches, seeing them as symbols of life and renewal during the darkest time of year.
That makes sense. Evergreens are pretty much the only things that stay green in winter.
Exactly. And even before that, the Germanic tribes had their own traditions involving evergreen trees. They honored Odin, their main god, by decorating trees with fruit and candles during the winter solstice. They saw the triangular shape of fir trees as representing the trinity of earth, heaven, and humanity.
It's amazing how these ancient cultures all seem drawn to evergreens in winter. There's something powerful about that symbolism, isn't there?
Absolutely. It speaks to a universal human desire for hope and renewal during the darkest months of the year.
Okay, so we've got Romans and Germanic tribes decorating trees. But how did we get from there to the Christmas tree tradition we know today?
Well, one story credits Saint Boniface, an English monk who went to Germany in the 8th century to spread Christianity. Legend has it, he came across a group of pagans worshiping an oak tree, and to prove the superiority of Christianity, he chopped the oak down.
Whoa, that's a bold move. Talk about making a statement.
And guess what? Supposedly sprouted up in its place. A young fir tree. Boniface used this event to convert the pagans associating the fir tree with Christ and the Christian faith.
So the Christmas tree origin story involves a bit of divine intervention and some dramatic tree felling. That's definitely not something they teach in Sunday school.
It's a pretty striking image, isn't it? Of course, historians debate the accuracy of this story, but it highlights the ongoing tension between paganism and Christianity during that era.
It's fascinating to think about how these different belief systems were clashing and blending together.
It was a time of great cultural change and upheaval, but even in the midst of those changes, the symbolism of the evergreen tree endured.
Okay, so we've got Romans, Germanic tribes, a tree-chopping monk. But when did Christmas trees really take off and become the widespread tradition they are today?
Bringing decorated fir trees into homes really gained traction in 16th century Germany. People adorned them with apples, nuts, and gingerbread, making them edible centerpieces for the holidays.
Edible decorations. Now that's a tradition I can get behind.
I know, right? And then things really exploded thanks to a certain royal couple.
You're talking about Queen Victoria and Prince Albert.
Bingo. In the 1840s, a picture of the royal family gathered around their lavishly decorated Christmas tree at Windsor Castle was published in a popular magazine.
And boom, Christmas tree fever swept through Britain and the rest of the world.
Exactly. The image of a beloved queen embracing this German tradition made it instantly fashionable, and pretty soon every home had to have a Christmas tree.
It's crazy how a single image can have such a huge cultural impact. It reminds me of how trends spread on social media today. Like, imagine if Queen Victoria had Instagram.
I know, right? It would have gone viral in an instant. And just like those early trends, Christmas trees have endured, becoming a symbol of holiday spirit across the globe.
It's amazing how traditions that started centuries ago are still such a big part of our lives today. Speaking of enduring traditions, what about those piles of presents under the tree and the joyful carols we all know and love?
You're not going to believe this, but even those seemingly pure Christmas staples have a wild past too. Remember that Roman festival of Saturnalia we were talking about?
Oh yeah, the one with all the feasting and role reversals.
Well, gift-giving was a big part of that celebration. Romans exchanged gifts as a way to ensure good luck for the coming year.
Huh. So a tradition that started as a way to appease ancient gods turned into a symbol of love and generosity during the Christmas season. That's pretty cool.
It really is. And it speaks to how traditions can evolve and take on new meanings over time. But what about carols? How do those joyful tunes connect to ancient pagan rituals?
Yeah, I'm curious about that one too. It's hard to imagine Silent Night having anything to do with pagan gods.
Think back to those Germanic tribes and their winter solstice celebrations. They had this tradition called wassailing, where they'd go door to door singing and drinking for good health, warding off evil spirits and ensuring a bountiful harvest.
So basically, caroling is just ancient wassailing with a Christmas makeover.
Pretty much. The festive tunes and religious lyrics might be different, but the act of spreading cheer through song has a long and, dare I say, slightly tipsy history.
I love that. It's like our ancestors were out there caroling their way to good fortune. Okay, so gift-giving and carols have some unexpected origins. What about mistletoe? Is that another one of those pagan-turned-Christian traditions?
Oh, absolutely. Mistletoe was a big deal in ancient cultures. The Druids believed it was a symbol of peace and even had the power to stop battles. If two enemies met under a mistletoe, they would lay down their weapons and call a truce.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful plant. I had no idea mistletoe had such a peaceful reputation.
And then there's the Roman connection. They linked mistletoe with fertility, and let's just say their rituals under the mistletoe were a little more, shall we say, passionate than a simple kiss.
Okay, I think I get the picture. So that sprig of mistletoe hanging in the doorway has a history that's both peaceful and a bit scandalous.
Exactly. It's a fascinating blend of ancient beliefs and modern customs.
Well, this is definitely giving me a whole new perspective on Christmas decorations. I'm starting to see pagan echoes everywhere.
And we haven't even talked about the big guy in the red suit yet.
Oh, you mean Santa Claus? Surely his story is purely Christian, right? A kind, generous saint who brings joy to children.
Well, the historical St. Nicholas was a 4th century bishop known for his generosity, especially towards children. But the modern-day Santa Claus, the jolly bearded fellow in the red suit, has some surprising connections to pagan figures as well.
Okay, spill the tea. Let's hear about Santa's secret pagan past.
One really interesting connection is to Odin, the main god in Norse mythology. Remember those Germanic tribes decorating evergreen trees in his honor? Well, Odin was also a bearded figure who rode a flying eight-legged horse named Sleipnir. During the Yule season, kids would leave their boots out filled with treats for Sleipnir, and Odin would reward them with gifts.
Wait, so Santa's reindeer and the whole leaving out treats tradition could actually be inspired by Odin and his magical horse.
It's a compelling theory, isn't it? It shows how ancient myths and figures can persist their stories woven into new traditions.
And all this time, I thought the Coca-Cola connection was the most shocking part of Santa's story.
Oh, the Coca-Cola story definitely played a big role in shaping Santa's modern image. Their iconic advertising in the 1930s solidified his look as the red-suited, white-bearded guy we all know today.
It's wild how a brand can have such a lasting impact on a cultural icon. Talk about the power of marketing.
But even before Coca-Cola, Santa's image was already changing. In the 1860s, Harper's Weekly published an illustration of Santa Claus that, while not yet wearing red, had a distinctly jolly and grandfatherly appearance. That illustration by the cartoonist Thomas Nast helped solidify Santa's persona as a bringer of gifts and holiday cheer.
So Santa's transformation from a generous saint to the modern-day gift-giving icon was a gradual process shaped by cultural influences, artistic interpretations, and even a little savvy marketing.
Exactly. It's a reminder that cultural icons are rarely static. They evolve and adapt over time, reflecting the beliefs and values of the societies that embrace them.
Okay, but you mentioned something earlier about a darker side to Santa. Who is this Krampus character? Is he like the anti-Santa?
Krampus is a figure from Central European folklore, often shown as a horned demonic beast. He's basically Santa's shadow self, the one who punishes naughty children while Santa rewards the good ones.
So it's like a good cop, bad cop routine for Christmas.
Precisely. Krampus is a reminder that even in the middle of all the holiday cheer, there's a recognition of the darker aspects of human nature, the potential for mischief and misbehavior.
Well, that's definitely a less jolly take on Christmas. Makes you appreciate Santa's kindness a bit more.
That's one way to look at it. But what's fascinating is that these figures, Santa and Krampus, exist side by side, representing the duality of human nature.
It's like they're two sides of the same coin, the light and the shadow.
Yeah.
And together they paint a more complete picture of the holiday season. So we've covered Christmas trees, presents, carols, mistletoe, and even Santa's complicated history. What other Christmas traditions have origins that might surprise us?
Well, what about the Christmas pudding? Its rich, dark appearance filled with dried fruits and spices is said to symbolize wealth and prosperity. But its origins likely predate Christianity. Some historians believe it evolved from ancient Roman porridge-like dishes made with grains and fruits.
Wow. So even our Christmas desserts have a history that goes back centuries. Who knew?
And let's not forget the Yule log. It's a tradition with deep roots in pagan winter solstice celebrations. Burning a large log in the hearth symbolized warmth and light during the darkest days of the year.
Okay, I have to ask, is there anything about Christmas that doesn't have a pagan connection?
Well, the core message of Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus and the values of love, compassion, and generosity, is of course rooted in Christian faith. But the holiday we celebrate today is this incredible tapestry woven from ancient traditions, pagan rituals, and Christian beliefs.
It's like Christmas is this giant historical mashup where ancient customs and religious beliefs have all been blended together over centuries.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fascinating to explore. It's a reminder that even our most cherished traditions have complex and often surprising origins. It really is remarkable how these ancient rituals have woven their way into our modern celebrations. It's like we're carrying on a conversation across centuries, isn't it?
Absolutely. It makes you realize that Christmas is more than just a holiday. It's a living, evolving tradition.
Precisely. And that brings us to a question for you, dear listener. Does knowing about the pagan roots of these traditions change how you see Christmas? Does it make the celebration less meaningful, or does it add a new layer of fascination?
For me, it definitely makes those twinkling lights and piles of presents seem even more interesting. It's like I'm seeing them through a different lens now, one that reveals the echoes of ancient celebrations.
It's amazing to think that something as simple as decorating a tree or hanging mistletoe can connect us to our ancestors from thousands of years ago.
It's like we're all part of this grand ongoing cultural story. And by understanding the past, we can appreciate the present even more.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe understanding the deeper history of these traditions can even help us shape the future of Christmas.
That's a thought-provoking idea. What if we consciously decided to incorporate more of those ancient rituals and meanings into our modern celebrations?
It's an interesting possibility, isn't it? For example, instead of just seeing gift giving as a material exchange, we could think about it as a symbolic act of sharing good fortune and strengthening bonds, like the Romans did during Saturnalia.
Or maybe we could bring back some of the playful elements of those ancient festivals, like the role reversals and festive feasting. Imagine a Christmas party where the boss has to serve the interns.
Now, that would be a holiday tradition worth reviving. It would definitely inject some fun and a bit of mischief into the celebrations.
It would certainly make things memorable. But even if we don't go that far, I think simply being aware of the history behind these traditions can change the way we experience them.
Absolutely. It can add a new layer of depth and meaning to our celebrations, making them even more special.
Yeah, it really is mind-blowing to think that something as simple as a decorated tree or a sprig of mistletoe can have such a long and complex history.
It speaks to the enduring power of tradition and how these practices can evolve and adapt across time and belief systems.
It makes you wonder what future generations will think about our modern-day Christmas traditions. Will they look back and see uh, the echoes of our 21st century culture kind of woven into the holidays?
That's a great question. It's almost certain that Christmas will continue to evolve just as it has for centuries. New traditions will emerge, old ones might fade away, and the meaning of the holiday might shift as society changes.
I wonder what those future historians will find fascinating about our Christmas celebrations. Maybe they'll be intrigued by the rise of online shopping and how it transformed gift-giving. Or perhaps they'll study the evolution of Christmas music from traditional carols to modern pop songs.
Imagine them analyzing the evolution of the elf on the shelf. What will that tradition say about our culture and values?
That's hilarious. It makes you realize that even something as seemingly silly as a mischievous elf can become a cultural touchstone.
It really highlights the power of tradition and how it can connect us across generations. Who knows, maybe centuries from now, people will be gathering around their holographic Christmas trees, singing virtual carols, and sharing stories about the good old days when Santa Claus still delivered presents in a sleigh pulled by reindeer.
That's a fun image.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, I kind of hope Santa and his reindeer stick around for a while longer.
I agree. Some traditions are just too good to let go of.
Well, dear listener, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the surprisingly wild history of Christmas traditions. We hope you've enjoyed this festive journey through time and that you'll never look at a Christmas tree or a sprig of mistletoe the same way again.
As you celebrate this holiday season, we encourage you to think about the long and winding path these traditions have taken from ancient rituals to modern customs. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself feeling a little more connected to the generations who came before you, who celebrated the winter solstice with bonfires, feasting, and gift giving long before Christmas as we know it existed.
From all of us here at Fun Theory, happy holidays. And until next time, keep those brain gears turning.